You're listening to FFOP Radio.
Reach the
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Review-niverse. It's back. We're reviewing everything within the universe. And this episode, I've got, he's the guy who comes on the show the most. It's PJ back on the show. Welcome, PJ.
The co-hostess with the mostest. That's
Co-mostest.
The co-mostest.
Yeah, you've got just as much mostest as I. Speaking of... another co-host in studio. We've got Chris over there on the new chair, not the couch.
I am on the new chair still.
Is it comfortable?
I mean, it's all right.
I really enjoy the chairs, and plus I think they're more professional. A couch is like sort of, but if we ever
I can't
get...
sit Indian style properly in it.
well, you're not supposed to be able to sit in Indian style, on a show.
I need to be comfortable.
Then you come on, you say, oh, well, then, you put on your dancing feet.
I haven't sat Indian style in like 20 years.
I do it every day.
Me too. But that's beside the point. PJ, the reason you are here is because we are going to go over, review, and talk about the Arctic Monkeys album.
Yes. I'm
Such
excited.
and such, yada, yada, yada. What is it?
Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not.
Yeah, okay.
So long.
It's, yeah.
Well,
I'll talk about some of the background of this entire era, essentially.
And then we have the track list here that I'm looking at, and some of these are also a mouthful. Like your boys do not know how to rein it in. So
it was 100. It's all on purpose. It's literally it's the guy who writes the songs. That's what he does.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this is that's why I'm going to pick your brain about this album mostly, because all I have are maybe a half a dozen to a dozen listens under my belt, and I'm just getting like the gross points down. Like I haven't had time to really. Like, it would probably take a month, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months just like listening to it to break it all down to the degree I would like to. But that's why I've got you.
Yeah.
So let's start with the first track, The View from the Afternoon. Probably one of my favorite tracks right off the bat.
It is one of my absolute favorite tracks of them all time. So
what does this song mean to you, like narratively? Tell me what your impression is of it.
So it's weird that they start the album off with this song, because the narrative of it's kind of literal in the name, where it's like the view from the afternoon it's kind of like they're waking up in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So like it's after a long night, waking up super late into the afternoon. And that's literally like the whole idea of it. Like a lot of this album is very literal.
A couple of things about this track that I really liked. So he talks about anticipation, like setting you up for disappointment.
Yeah.
But I kept hearing, because of his really thick accent, when he'd say, tonight there'll be a ruckus. Yeah, I kept swearing he was saying ricochet. And I was like, what is the ricochet that people are hearing? But this is a great... It is sort of deep, but then you realize it's basically just about the rock or like living in a band lifestyle where you're spending all night out, like playing shows and gigs and shit.
Yeah. To preface this album, the Arctic Monkeys were the only reason that they were even found, essentially, was somebody put their music on MySpace and that music blew up. And it wasn't them who put it on MySpace. So they literally blew up because a fan of theirs put their music on MySpace. That's
a testament to their talent. Like if you're good, you're good and you pop. Yeah. Not necessarily everyone who is good pops, though. These guys just happen to hit it.
They were also the first band to quote unquote make it from MySpace.
Well, yeah, that's maybe that's why MySpace was such a weird experience, and we can talk about that for an entire show. But I digress. One thing I love about this track and this whole album is it feels very lo-fi, it feels very garage, it feels very raw, and the bass really is a real driving force that I really enjoyed.
It's funny that you say that because after this album, their bassist left. And they had a different bassist for every album after that. And I love their bassist from this album so much.
So what's up with that? Do you know what happened there?
There was a falling out between them where they were touring for a very long time. He needed time away, so they filled in his spot with somebody else and then just replaced him. But it was kind of like a gut-wrenching moment for him because they were all literally childhood friends.
Uh-huh.
So they like replaced him for a tour, and then he just recently had an interview where he talked about it, and like he's like, yeah, they replaced me for a tour, and then they just basically told me that they were gonna remove me from the group and just continue on. So.
So what spurred that? It wasn't obviously out of nowhere, right? Like you.
Well, he literally said like I have to. There's something that he had to do. He didn't say what it was. He's like, there's something I have to do, and I cannot tour with you guys. And that was like for that one specific tour, and that was apparently that was whatever the breaking point. But he wrote all their music, so like all their music, like that's why like the first album was completely written by him. All of them were still like fairly new to the instruments at the time, so.
That kind of surprises me because they seem like a very technically proficient band.
So like their whole thing was like they didn't start playing music till they were like 16. That album came out when they were about 20.
Mm-hmm.
But they were all very much hip hop heads.
Okay.
Growing up, so that's what they mainly listened to. So like a lot of the things that they take that from is like their drummers like into old school R&B and hip hop mainly, and then everybody else was just into hip hop. They were all just hip hop heads.
You can kind of feel that, like if it weren't for the bass going all over the place, it does feel like kind of especially his singing does feel very hip hop inspired, even though it is still singing.
Yeah. Yeah, their singer has developed over time into something completely different. I like his lyrics. I've always liked his lyrics, so he's very good when it comes to lyrics.
So does he write all of his own?
Yeah,
or,
he
basically
writes.
he writes all of his own lyrics. Like he doesn't farm that out to like. There's no like because I know some bands they'll give the bassist or they'll give the drummer, they'll give a guitar player a chance to go off on one. You know what I mean?
He writes pretty much all the lyrics. The drummer will sometimes chime in with some stuff, but it's mostly him because the drummer can also sing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of, I guess it shouldn't be that surprising, but everybody in a band seems like they do everything in the band, or they can do everything in the band.
Yeah. Their drummer has toured with a lot of other bands. So he just recently toured with like Iggy Pop. And he was drumming for him, and he did a bunch of other stuff too.
That's another great thing about being a drummer too, is like you can go anywhere because it's like because like if you're gonna back up Iggy Pop, like what drum solo would you have to learn to be like, oh, that's the classic Iggy Pop drum solo?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
he's just there to like be there. But yeah, I mean, and it's crazy because I just thinking about it, they're literally my age. They're born the same year as me, all of them. So.
I mean, it shouldn't be so mind blowing.
It's just like I've grown up listening to them, and they're literally they're all my age. I've met them multiple times, so.
But they popped when the internet thing, man. Like that's the thing. Like when MySpace and like it's sort of stuff just happened. Everyone was throwing everything against the wall to see what stuck.
Yeah,
it's never changed. Today, Steam or whatever allegory you want to point to, it's all the same. And whatever's good probably rises to the top, and whatever isn't, it stays where it should.
Yeah. That album was a quintessential album of that era. So it's very much like ingrained in the mid 2000s, pretty much just 2000s alternative rock period. So.
You know what it made me feel? Two things it made me feel. One, definitely like it was written by a group in their 20s.
Yeah.
Like it's way entrenched in like 20s shit. If you've ever been in and out of your 20s and you listen to this album, you go, yeah, that's 20 shit. That's one thing. Number two is like a lot of it reminded me of The Darkest of the Hillside Thickets for some reason. Like a lot of their intros and bass lines had that weird, I don't even know how to describe it, but there was like a weird quality to it that that reminded me of them. So there's a strangeness to the sound is what I'm trying to get at without knowing how to. But track 2, I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor. That's like a classic. That's like one of their songs that has the 100 godzillion albums or listens rather.
Yeah, so that one is one of their most listened to songs ever.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's like that's the song that like when I go to a concert by them and they play that song, everyone is going nuts for that
for
song.
sure. Yeah, I imagine like, and it's crazy to me because of, well, I have my thoughts. What to you does this song mean?
It's like I said, a lot of their songs on this album are very literal. So
give me an interpretation and a breakdown, because I've got some things here that I want to see what you. If you're saying it's all literal, then all my deeper thoughts here might be moot. So break it down as you see it.
All right. So like, I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor is essentially it's them talking to people, saying that as they drink, they're going to look at like they're better dancers because they're drunk.
Really? I think we are a way different. Okay, so this I've read as this is the I read this as singing about a singular person, because they mention, your name is unimportant because you're at a bar, you're just a hot individual, but you're completely uninterested in me, the author of this song. By way of the metaphor, your shoulders are frozen, so you're constantly giving the cold shoulder to such an extent that they are frozen, but you're an explosion, meaning you're incredibly hot, and I want to get at you, but I can't get past your cold shoulders.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So when he says, I bet you look good on the dance floor, that's all he's going to ever get out of this person. Like, there's no way in. It's like this person, this woman, I imagine in my narrative, because this is a man singing the song, this lady has complete control of the author of this song by way of the void, by giving zero fucks. This dude is compelled by her mystery. And the fact that she is like, no, I don't give a fuck about you, is making the situation that much more compelling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when he says, I bet you look good on the dance floor, it's because that's all he'll ever get to experience. That person says, negative to you, in no way, shape, or form are we interacting. And so he says, okay, I bet you look good when you're out there dancing. And that's basically it. That's how I took it.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much spot on too.
But to you, that song is he's talking to different people?
No, it's just like it. I mean, in the song, it's specified to like a single person, but it's just I feel like it's just a blanket statement to nightlife.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think it was a metaphor for the nightlife as a 20-year-old dude out on the town where, there's somebody at the bar who's a 10, they're out of your league, and they've got, the frozen shoulders, but they're an explosion. So they're, insanely hot and they're dressed all hot, but they won't give you the fucking time of day.
Yeah.
So that's what I got out of that, is like the surface level shit of it all is, yeah, when you go out to a club, you're going to see hot chicks or dudes who are above you socially, and they want nothing to do with you. So all you can do is watch them when they go out to dance.
Yeah.
But if you want to break that down, my interpretation is the woman is using that as a form of control, like a lure, because from that angle, the cold shoulder is basically the bait that everybody comes and like, obviously like this guy is compelled to keep coming back. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking she or he, however you want to see this character, obviously he's not at the bar for no reason. They're there to get lapdogs like this dude to be like, oh man, you're so hot. And just like desire after you, which is, a nice ego boost.
Yeah.
But, it's still, if you just want to like shut your brain off and turn off the subtext and even turn off the text of the actual lyrics, when the chorus kicks in, it is probably a fun song to like get into like a little junior mosh pit. I imagine it doesn't get too rowdy with the Arctic Monkeys, but if you're going to like dance, that's the time to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so like I've been in different parts of the crowd for their shows. I've been up on the rail, and like there are certain songs where people will get like super like into and jumping around and going crazy for, and like that is definitely one of them.
Oh, for sure. Like this,
people will be screaming the words, like jumping up and down for that song. So
I can only imagine what like the reaction to this song live by fans. It must be out of this world. Like, cause it not only is like a very competent song, like competently performed, but it's written within an inch of its life. Like there's no fat on it.
Yeah.
I think it tells a very concise, a very interesting story, and then it's out. Done.
Yeah.
And then we move into Fake Tales of San Francisco. This is an interesting song, but thematically it's a real like shift in tone.
Yeah. 100%. Well, because like, so it's crazy because A View from the Afternoon is like one of their like craziest like intro songs. So like it jumps into like a very heavy intro, but they have a lot of songs that are like that and usually they put them as their first songs in their albums that jump in like really heavy, really fast and go into a very fast-paced song.
Yeah.
So it's like once you get a few songs in and the entire tone changes, it's like it's almost a throw off, but they do it in all their albums. They're consistent with doing that. So they obviously are doing it for a reason.
Yeah. Because not everything about this album felt intentional. And there's another group that does that, or did that to me at least. But Mr. Heavenly, if you want to check out their album, Boxing the Moonlight, the first 3 tracks are just like boom, 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 like solid, poppy, interesting, everything you want in an indie rock song. And then track 4 hits and it goes batshit bananas crazy. And then you're on this insane roller coaster and they finish solid. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
I think that this song is like the most blunt, maybe not the most blunt, it's maybe their most blunt criticism of Hollywood phonies, but they're just in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's,
right,
I mean, pretty much like, because they talk about the people they also talk about the people who are trying to make it in the band scene, and they're just like, they're doing their like normal shit, but they're like them literally talking about them in the bathroom reciting their lines. Like, it's literally like they're doing one thing, but practicing for another thing when they're somewhere else, just because they're trying to make it.
Yeah, it was very, the message to me was bizarre because it felt like, they're on one hand, they feel like they're sort of condemning having to do 2 things at once, like having to like do the workaday job that pays the bills and then like trying to pursue your passion or whatever. But it all just felt like a condemnation of vanity. Like just give up on, maybe not give up on, but like take a look at the vanity of and like the phoniness of yourself. And then the most interesting lyric I thought of the song was, get off the bandwagon, put down the handbook.
Yeah.
It's that rut mentality where, you move to a place because you think it'll rub off on you. You want to feel like you're part of that community or whatever, and you realize you're a phony or whatever. So
Yeah.
This could just be seen as a microcosm of San Francisco, or it can be taken as a larger point of like, hey, it's your life. Pull your head out of your ass while you still can. Don't be one of these fake ass losers living in a place that you don't feel.
Yeah.
Or, to me.
Yeah, it's interesting because some of these songs were written when they were like 17.
Yeah.
Because some of these songs came out when they initially were found out, which was 2003. This album came out in 2005.
What I'm probably doing is over analyzing, because you're probably right. These are probably nothing more than a non-ironic look at the fake people of San Francisco. It may just be I bet you look good on the dance floor. It's probably just a gotcha to like hot bitches who won't give you the time of day at a party. But, art also taps into a lot of deeper meanings, even if the artist isn't exploiting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely.
But that being said, Dancing Shoes, I found to be very lacking in substance.
Oh, yeah. It's of all the songs that are probably incredibly literal on this album, Dancing Shoes is probably one of them. There isn't much to it. It's literally just like he's talking about dancing and then potentially finding the love of your life, and you're just missing out on it if you don't take that chance.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting thing about Dancing Shoes is the instrumental aspect of it, and I don't know why, but when he calls when the singer talking to whoever tells them to put on their dancing shoes and calls them a sexy little swine, I like that. I don't know why, but the drums in this, I think, are its saving grace for this song. They're so upbeat and almost, I want to say, not necessarily island inspired, but they're fast like that, like the fast, deep tom toms of the track. I love.
Yeah. If there's one thing that this group has is their drummer is known as one of the best alt rock drummers. So he is incredibly talented.
Competent as hell. Like when I was growing up listening to Blink-182, I would always hear about their drummer and his amazing talent. And I would hear Blink-182 songs, and they're always just like pop punk garbage. And I was like, oh, I get, they're not super deep. They're not incredibly anything. They're just digestible. But if you stop and actually listen to him drum, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But he hides it so well.
Yeah, because they're blending in with the song and just adding accents to the song. But at the same time, there are certain songs where you hear from the Arctic Monkeys, and especially some of the songs later on, you just hear them and you're like, Jesus. I mean, to be honest, A View from the Afternoon on the drums is an insane song. So, and that is the first song on the album.
That track is all based in drums and it is great.
Yeah.
Dancing Shoes, though, is like a drum song. This is where you're coming for drums and not much else. Honestly, there's not a whole lot going on here. It doesn't feel super deep, but it is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the songs it's not, there isn't a lot to it. It's just a fun song to listen to.
So, they're writing it as they're 17. I probably shouldn't be looking too deep into this shit because they probably weren't at the time.
It's also one of the shortest songs on the album, so.
Yeah, but it's good. Everything about this album is a pleasure. Even the slow stuff, because it's buffered by more or less, even though it is jarring, you're still riding high enough that you're willing to give it a look. So please, PJ, this next song is long as hell, the title, so please say it out loud.
You probably couldn't see for the lights?
Yes. But it's way longer than that.
Oh, yeah.
You probably couldn't see for the lights, but you were staring straight at me.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a book.
Yeah.
every song.
It's like Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy, all those long ass names of songs.
Yep.
And also, is Travis Barker, is he the drummer for
Yes.
Blink-182? Okay. It was bothering me. Wanted to make sure I was right.
Travis something or
Barker.
other, right?
Yeah, it's
was it?
Travis Barker.
Barker,
He does a
okay.
lot of different drumming nowadays.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's also the guy who almost
died.
survived a plane crash
Yeah.
Twice.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe he came back to drum. But anyway. So, we have that incredibly long song title. How did this read to you?
So this one I've always had a hard time deciphering. So that's why
Okay.
I'm curious as to what you thought.
I think maybe I'll just underanalyze it a little bit. This is just a person who's self-conscious. Like, it's, all the stuff that is in front of or behind them that is getting all the attention, that it says it right there in the title. It's hard to explain it because it just seems so simple that it's just a thing of vanity. Like, he's basically like, you don't know who I am, but all the shit around me is what you see. Like, that's what it kind of feels like to me.
It's honestly kind of about anxiety.
Yeah, it does feel like, and that's the thing too, is like you're seeing everything but the real them, and like anxiety is something that people hold back from people. And if you were legitimately invested in someone, you'd see that. So that's why I think this album is kind of on the side of like, I don't want to say it's condemning certain things, but it's definitely like on this side of like, why can't you just understand me? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah. That is also that is the shortest song on the album, which is barely over 2 minutes long.
Yeah,
it's very short. It's kind of like, it honestly is less like a song and more like an interlude.
Yeah, it's almost like he wrote a poem and didn't write a whole song, and they were just like, fuck it. And that's what it kind of feels like. It's a short, like, stanza after stanza where it's like,
some of the better parts. So like when this album itself is only 12 songs long, but every time the Arctic Monkeys come out with a single, they come out with 2 B-sides. Each album has 3 to 4 singles, so they end up adding on 6 to 8 songs per album that come out after the album releases.
That's so strange.
Yeah, but they do it with every album. So like this album had a ton of B-sides, and like some of them were like, this album's B-sides weren't super great. Some of them were, but there were some of them that just kind of sucked. The second album, on the other hand, has every single B-side that came out for that album is amazing. So it's like they just grew up after a little while. But yeah, they had they were just all over the place, I think, on their first album. Still trying to find themselves with the music.
Yeah, they're definitely an interesting band, and yeah, I think maybe I was putting too much thought into all of this stuff. So, like, Still Take Me Home is the next track, or Still Take You Home. Sorry, Still Take You Home. It just feels like. Well, let me ask you, what does this feel like to you?
I mean, so all right, so Still Take You Home. It has a lot to do with like, they'll see these kind of pretentious people that they would, I would think they're assuming that they are, or people that they just like. He starts off as talking about somebody who might be super pretentious. Then he also talks about somebody who hasn't seen in a while, he might have went to school with, and then he's seeing while he's out on the town and they just don't remember him. And he's just like, screw it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, none of that matters. And you look this way, I'm still going to take you home. It doesn't, like, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are. I'm still going to take you home.
So let me ask you this. The home in question, is it the singer's home, or is he talking about driving them home after they are drunk?
It could be either or.
That's the thing that I'm stuck on.
He is like I said, their lead singer is incredibly, like, when it comes to his lyrics, like, it's very intentional as to what he does. He's always been that way. So he could be implying that.
Yeah, I totally get that. Because it's, in one hand, you can say, well, we're at this encounter. We've got all these people who are acting snooty or whatever. They're out of my league or yada, yada, yada. But I read it as, once they get drunk, I'm still a good enough friend that I will drive them home, or I'm waiting for them to get
One-night
drunk so their standards fall and I will bring them to my home and fuck them.
I mean, they have a song called "Why'd You Only Call Me When You're High." So,
So that's why I think, given these are probably written around the teenage to early 20s, the latter is probably the most true of the scenarios.
and I was also going to say, like, remember in England, drinking age is 18. So they're talking about this as being like well part of the nightlife in England.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like, I took that into account because I was like, okay, they're in the UK. Obviously the guy's accent's crazy thick. So, then you could just say, okay, take you home could mean walk you home, because everything, like if you live in London, it's like what, a square mile of real estate.
Yeah, but they're from Sheffield, which is like backwaters. So
right. So that, like you could pick that song apart left, right, and center because it's left intentionally vague, and I get it, but I don't think there's anything vague about it. I think given the context that these were kids, at the time he wrote this, he's talking about getting his bang on with all these people who think that they're too good for him, because this album is completely about him being the underdog.
Yeah.
And maybe not even the underdog, but maybe just like the downtrodden.
Yeah.
Because I probably, in your 20s, you can definitely identify with that. In your 20s, you are definitely feeling like you're gathering enough experience and intelligence to like be considered a real human finally.
It could also be like with the singer is just coming to terms with like he's lived a certain way his entire life, and maybe now that he like as he became more of like involved with bands and stuff, he got more popular, but he wasn't necessarily that way essentially, so he's just coming to terms with that.
Maybe, but I doubt it, because here's my perfect segue. Because of the next track, Riot Fan,
which is my least favorite song on the album. And fun fact, the 7th song on every single one of their albums is my least favorite song.
Well, I thought that this is their most blunt, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
This is a slow journey. It's a very preachy song. It's a very like, please end sort of song. The details are unimportant. The broad strokes are the police are bad because there are actual crimes and they're hassling us kids, right?
Yeah, we're just drinking and having a good time, and they want to come and throw us away.
Basically from the point of view of like a drunk kid running around the city being like, I shouldn't run because I haven't really done anything, but I'm going to fuck with this police officer because they should be doing something better with their time. I was like, okay, fine, I guess it's okay. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So now, unless you've got something else deeper to say about that one.
No, Riot Band is, when it comes to that sense, like Riot Band doesn't really have any deepness to it. So
yeah, like don't get me wrong, I get annoyed with the police too. Like I think it's incredibly unfair that they hand out 1 billion more tickets than they'll ever get because they can flash their fucking badge and be like, cha-ching, no ticket. But I'm not going to write a fucking song about it. Anyway. Next one up, red light indicates doors are secured. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not have a lot of thoughts about this song. So to you, what is going on here?
I think it's all over the place, to be honest. Like it's trying to talk about too many different aspects of nightlife.
Yeah, I
don't think it's really focused on any specific one. Like it's kind of jumping from one to the other within the song without actually focusing on one.
Maybe that's it. Like the nonsensical nature of the title then sort of does indicate, or rather correlate.
I think too, because like the name of it being red light indicates doors are secure, but I think it's also implying that he's trying to talk to a woman who's already might be talking to another guy, and it might be implying the fact that like he shouldn't be talking to her because it's just not gonna work, and like he should just move on, but he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's sharing a cab with these people and he's like stuck. So like that whole like red light meaning the doors are locked and he can't get out of the cab, and he's in a cab with a girl who's talking to another guy, and he's just kind of there still trying to do it, but it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know, man. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, right after the 7th track, I lost a lot of steam. Like, I had to come back to this album so many times, and I would lose less steam after, oh, Jesus. What song was it that we just talked about?
Riot Van?
Riot Van? Yeah. I lose so much steam after Riot Van. Because then, like, we get into a little more... I feel like the back half of this album is loaded with their slower, more heavier stuff.
Yes. It's like, so it's weird because it's like, it goes heavy, wheels down to Riot Van, and then slowly starts to build back up, because from like the final song of their album is one of their most famous songs. Also, When the Sun Goes Down, their second to last song, is literally one of their most, like, I might be their top song. So that's...
When the Sun Goes Down is such an interesting one. Like, we could probably skip over Marty Byrne and the Vampires. Marty Bum, yeah. Sorry, Marty Bum and perhaps Vampires is a bit strong, but When the Sun Goes Down is still very blunt, but at least it's an interesting journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so like, all right. So Marty Bum is kind of lax again. Like, it's out of all the songs on it, like, I'm not a giant fan of Riot Van or Marty Bum.
Yeah. No.
Perhaps like Vampires is kind of them literally saying that, like, there are people who are just trying to, like, leech on them as they're getting bigger.
Yeah, it's a very blunt, over the head metaphor. It feels very like, yeah, these are vampires. Like, you know, come on, man, my blood, and like all the money and all this stuff. Like, I get it. I feel like, but isn't this their first album?
Yeah.
Well, it's like their first studio album.
No, yeah. So like they were massive in England when they first came out. So like 2003 was when they were touring, but their first album came out in 2005. So
okay, yeah.
They were already well known in England. I mean, they played Glastonbury in 2006, I want to say, and they headlined Glastonbury, which is like one of the biggest music festivals in the world. So
wow,
they were like, and I mean, it's in England, but they were like massive. So that's like 100,000 person crowd. Like, that's a big crowd.
I believe it. Like, this album has its, you know, it's more wheat than chaff, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
But When the Sun Goes Down is an interesting romp through like the seedy underbelly of like a big city.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting narrative that sort of follows a few characters, but loosely.
So what do you, I mean, it's blatant what that song is about. Did you get that?
Yeah, it's like the narrative I followed was
it's a prostitute.
When the sun yeah. The prostitute who's working on the street, and like the John who sort of comes and interacts with her, and all of this stuff happens when the sun goes down and like the red lights turn on. You know, great reference. I read it as more than prostitutes though, and like it was the prostitutes coupled with like the weirdness of the Johns, and it also felt a little bit druggy.
Yeah,
because maybe I'm just implying or inferring this from an implication that isn't there, but when you get to the narrative that they're pushing here, you often, you know, it isn't far from one's mind like an SVU style intro where you're looking down, there's like steam coming up from a vent somewhere, and there's a guy in the alley shooting up, and it's just like sort of a dark grimy area. That's what this song is. It's like that alley in an SVU episode right before the murder happens, the song.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's
good.
pretty much what it's about. I mean, it's just like the sketchy guys who are dealing with these women and how they're just trying to be like inconspicuous, and like it's easy to point them out and see them, and like, yeah, it's all these songs are ingrained in just nightlife in their area. So Like they're used to seeing all of this around them.
When you listen to this track, you can almost imagine like the scene I was pulling wasn't out of thin air. Like I was pulling it because it felt like that in the song, although I shouldn't have said New York. It's more of like a London back alley. So like sort of like a modern day Ripper era, like, you know, because it is funny how when you try to act nonchalant, you stick out like a sore thumb because you're trying to act nonchalant. It doesn't work. So that's what I think is funny about this song too, is like all of the interactions with the Johns and the prostitutes and their, you know, everything going on is hilarious to me because of the song and dance that they go through because of societal norms. But I'm sure he's not thinking about that as he's writing this song.
No, I feel like it could have been just something that he saw in one single night, and he was just like, I'm gonna write a song about this interaction that I had.
Right. It could be as simple as that, and I'm just pulling all the implications out of thin air.
Yeah.
But it does give you something to think about, because when you're looking at all this, he does sort of spell it out in the song. Like, you know, the Johns act weird, and like the prostitutes have a certain behavior and yada yada and all this other stuff. So it is a close scrutiny of human nature, just under the guise of a song about prostitutes at night.
Yeah, I like that particular song a lot. I think I like the flow of it, because it starts off where he's almost just like talking rather than him singing, and then it drives into a song, and then it completely mellows out again into him just talking and finishing it off.
Yeah, it's a really good, especially if you're getting very low energy like I was when like especially for perhaps vampires, that was really a make it or break it. I was like, I don't know about this. When the sun goes down, it's such a refreshing change of pace.
Yeah. It's when the album starts to build back up again.
So from Ritz to Rubble, the next track, didn't really grab me either, I have to say. I didn't have any strong feelings about it one way or the other. So
From Ritz to the Rubble is like, nowadays it's more considered like a classic song to them.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like them talking about being like living this like grand life at night, and then it comes crashing down the next day. So like it's not like they think they're on cloud nine while they're like partying and whatnot, and then they get kind of brought back down to like the reality of everything.
Yeah, I that's another. I feel like there's been a million of these songs written where it's basically a recording of the experience of, we party all night because we are rock stars, essentially. We play music and yada, different girls in every town, different towns every night, yada, yada, yada. And then you wake up and you go, oh, my life is a hollow lie. Well, yeah, it's the umpteenth zillionth song about this fucking pattern, genius. Like, what did you expect? Like, you go someplace new every night and you have a huge crowd there who's going to blow your ego up, and then you leave them, and then you're on your bus and you get a little bored and a little depressed. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, the whole initial beginning part of the song is literally an interaction with bouncers. That's literally like the whole first third of the song.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. I was like, I feel like there have been enough songs about like this experience, like living in middle America, like everything Bruce Springsteen sings. I feel like we've gone over enough. Thank you. But I guess this is just. I didn't feel like. Personally, I did not feel grabbed by any of the instruments of this song. Nothing really grabbed me there. The lyrics, the message, I was just like, hard pass.
My favorite part about that song is the bass. That's it.
If you're going to look at everything, the bass will always be the sticking out point, because this bass player, no matter how slow or no matter how boring or whatever the track that pops up, competent throughout, and still gives it everything, at least that sort of interesting backbone.
Yeah.
So now we're at the last one, A Certain Romance,
which is one of my favorite songs by them. It's personally one of my favorite songs seeing them play live.
So give me the narrative that you see in this song. Or do you?
I don't know if there's a narrative in this song.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, like, but you listen to this album all the time. You got to know there's some through line here, right?
I actually don't think this song has a narrative in it. I mean, like, I guess I'm like thinking about it. I guess if you wanted to say the last album had some kind of meaning, it's talking about different forms of assholes from where they're from. Many different types of assholes from where they're from. So,
right, and that's the thing I was sort of leading toward is like this is just not even an underdog, but like a shitheel story. It's like everybody is a dick, and that's what maybe that's what I mean by it's very 20s feeling.
Oh, it's like thinking like I listened to this album when I was 20. Literally had just turned 20. So I'm like it hit me in a different way because it felt like that time period in my life. So it's like it's one of those pieces that like in that time frame it hits you differently because it literally resonates with everything that might be going on around you at that time.
Yeah, I think if you hit this album at 20, then yeah, like I can see this hitting and digging in deep because it is every ideal of every 20-year-old, right? Like it's the longing to be considered an adult, but not being considered an adult fully by and large until you're 21. And even then, like there are still people who refer to me as a kid. I'm almost fucking 40. and imagine, well, you don't have to. If you're younger than 20, imagine the feeling of finally being considered an adult, but no one taking you seriously because you're not technically an adult yet. So like, fuck you, right? And then having lived through the 20s and looking back and being like, I wish I'd gotten a chance that all those people denied me. I was right, probably. God damn it. Just because someone's young doesn't mean they're stupid.
Yeah.
But this album sort of gives you that feeling of they're angry against that idea in song after song after song. Like it's one way after another of not measuring up, not being good enough because of their station in life. Especially like you look out on the dance floor, that song I feel like was written younger because if they wrote that when they blew up big, I guarantee there wouldn't be that experience of like someone giving them a cold shoulder at a club because they'd be fucking famous as shit. Or they wrote that after they got famous and they were holding sour grapes for the person. I don't know. You'd have to ask them. That's the thing, though. You can cut art any which way you like, and it all makes sense in all the ways you can.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't know if I'm going to be going back to this album a lot, simply because the dude, his accent really throws me.
Oh, it's deep because when I sing the songs, I sing it with his accent because like you
have to.
You literally have to.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I respect, if not like, about this album is when most singers from the UK, when you hear their singing voice, people will go, oh my God, I had no idea they were British. I had no idea they were Scottish or whatever. So I can appreciate when an accent is there in the singing voice. That's why I like, what is that other group? Pompeii?
Bastille?
No, Bastille. Pompeii is the song.
Yeah.
Bastille. Because the dude sings with his Welsh accent intact or wherever he's from.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's
Yeah.
not super thick, but this...
They're not trying to hide where they're from just because.
Yeah, and that's I respect that because it's part of their narrative. It's part of their story. Like where you're from is a half of you, right? You can't exist without being from somewhere.
Yeah.
So when and I think maybe it can go two ways. You can do like the people who cover up their accents, like the Europeans trying to sell to an American audience. And then you got jackasses who are born in like Minnesota putting it on a fucking Southern accent to sell a country album or become a cable guy. But I do like this album. I'm going to try and listen to it recreationally now that the show has come and we've done all that we're going to do to it. I'll definitely be back for a few of their tracks here and there, but I'm not going to be coming back for Riot Van for sure.
I don't ever listen to Riot Van. I skip it on even when I play my actual album of the damn like it's not like, to be honest, like their first album is like the quintessential one. Their second album is like it's interesting. It's very different, but like
yeah, I'm sure given time, and I'm sure they have. The complexity has blossomed. The forethought, maybe not the forethought, but the the building blocks and the subtext is there now. Maybe they aren't as blunt as they were as their first album.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they're like I said, they have a song called "Why'd You Only Call Me When You High," and that was on their fifth album, and that is their second most listened to song. So,
well, yeah, when you write about the human condition, you're going to touch upon things that are, and that's why I think "You Look Good on the Dance Floor" is so relatable. Like, it is an anthem against all the people who said you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically an acknowledgement of like, yeah, you're hot, but so what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Kind of, but it's still that shit heel of longing where it's like, why can't I? Like, you're drawn toward the heat of the explosion that they are, but blocked by the shoulders of ice. Anyway, PJ, that hell of an album, I got to tell you. So, future plans, spoiler alert, we're probably going to be diving into a zombie movie.
Dude, once you said that to me, I was like, because I'm gearing up to start watching zombie films for like Halloween's coming. Like I like to pick like my horror films and my zombie films to watch like leading up to it. So yeah,
I'm wondering if I should not make you, but let you watch maybe one of the best zombie movies that ever existed. Ever. And also the caveat being in a swamp. We'll have to talk about it. Swamp zombies. But yeah, we'll watch Swamp Zombies and you'll fucking love it. But let's go ahead and give I'm going to give my stamp of approval. I think that you should check out this album. PJ, say the name of the album again.
Why did I? Oh my god! I forget it. That's how bad.
You forgot it.
Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. I am giving it my Reviewniverse stamp of approval. I think you should take it in. It's for whatever. Now that YouTube exists, you can listen to the whole album for free. But if you like them, buy them. Support art, right?
Yeah, I have all their albums on like actual vinyl, so
I'm gonna have to. One of my favorite bands is Pain. They're a ska band, ska punk from the early to mid to late 90s, depending on when you find them. I found them on the Cartoon Network when they sang that Jabberjaw song. Not important, but I've had their music for so long. It's like from computer to computer to computer, I've lost parts of tracks, and I don't know where my discs are, so I'm gonna have to go old school and buy all those discs again. Because that's how I do it. I still rip CDs, bitch. Because what if I bought these tracks from Apple, right?
That's why vinyl is so big again.
But then fuck that shit. Don't get me wrong. I think vinyl is cute. I think it is a nice sound. I've got a classic restored vintage record player in this studio right now that I whip out for special occasions like Christmas songs and such.
And that's it.
But it is a pain in the ass to have to lift a 12-inch piece of plastic and flip it every 4 fucking songs.
And you can't take it with you.
Yeah. I have a.
Well, that's what you have
do
Spotify for. But when you're at home and you want to listen to music.
Yeah, Spotify's at home too. Here's what I'm going to do. I've got this grand idea. I've got an extra monitor. I'm going to have a friend of mine build a fake old-timey TV that the monitor will fit into, and I'll put a Raspberry Pi in it and set it up on YouTube to play old-timey shit. There
Yeah,
you go.
that'll work.
So, but the thing is, I can also play a jukebox or whatever music, because I like. Maybe okay, I get it. Here's how I connect it. If like in photography, I don't like when a camera does everything for me. I don't like when it controls the ISO. I don't like when it does any of that. I like having a knob for each thing. A lot of people are like, why? Why bother? Because I like being in control and getting the image that I want specifically. I feel like vinyl may be that experience. It's a visceral sort of ritual where you have to get up and sort of flip a thing and pray to a god and to insert a needle and there's a drug involved somewhere. But, that's the thing. If that's your ritual, I dig it. But I try too, man. I went out and bought albums. I got vinyl. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll be one of these vinyl dudes and I'll flip vinyl, right? No, I fucking hate it.
I love sometimes just sitting down and letting a record play. So I'll just sit there and let it go to its completion. Flip it over halfway through and then just sit there and chill out and ignore everything else and let it play.
Maybe now that I've got this huge studio and that record player, maybe I'll give it another shot. But I have
music ranging from all different types because my father had like 10,000 albums at one point.
Well, so let me ask you this: you're not thrown off or perturbed by the 20-minute window you have that you're gonna have to get up and change?
I don't ever keep it far from me. So even like in my apartment, I didn't keep it that far from me. So like I'd get up and flip it over. But like
far is perspective. I think this room is like whatever 20 by 10. So the record player from if I were to sit where Krista is sitting, the record player 15 feet tops. Still, I don't want to.
That's like
and then,
3 steps.
Yeah.
Of yours.
And then
steps.
you got to pick up the platter. You got to flip it, or then God forbid you're done with the whole record and you got to swap it. Like mine will do. I don't know. It'll hold like 5 or 6 records and it'll drop one after another, but you're just hearing one side. You're not flipping them. If I had a jukebox, then maybe we're talking.
It's just the physical aspect of it. It's kind of like to me, it's not, you're not completely disconnected because you're still using some sort of technology, but like it's still a disconnect. You're disconnected from like the internet and everything. Like just sit there and listen to something in its physical form rather than having to like utilize your phone or whatever and just disconnect from the world for a little while.
Yeah, just sit there and have a glass of wine. Listening to a record seems more, I don't know. I don't want to say nostalgic, but it feels more relaxing than me sitting and playing auto chess on my phone while having a glass of wine.
Yeah, Well, I don't think people who I don't think the younger generation would get it as much as some of us who at our in the 30s now understand it because we lived through an era that had that, and then we lived through an era that now has digital. So we tend to appreciate some of that more analog media. So it affects us a little bit differently, I think, because we've had both lives. We've lived both lives.
I don't know. I think that there will always be a market, and a pretty big market, for physical media. I think once we realize that everything is just going to be garbage soon anyway, we're going to want to go places and touch stuff and collect things toys. Funko Pop showed us that we are slaves to little plastic figurines, and there's always going to be nuts out there like me who like the full-blown camera experience for photography, and there's going to be nuts out there like you and Andy who like the vinyl thing where you're performing that ritual and I'm performing my ritual, and everybody is going to have these long drawn out tests. I don't think that's ever going to die, because no matter what, you're going to want to get into something eventually. And if everything is automated, then you're not gonna have anything to get into.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with this Arctic Monkeys album. So PJ, obviously you give your stamp of approval, recommendation for the listeners, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like taking a step back in time to that era, and if you lived during that area, you might understand it a little bit more. But yeah,
It feels like a baby step to me, because what was it, literally like, well, maybe it is almost 20 years ago.
I was gonna say
15
it's
years
getting
ago.
close to 20 years ago. So
To me, 2000 still feels like yesterday.
yeah,
Well, I was still listening to Disturbed and Finger 11.
Linkin Park. I was listening to
Linkin
back
Park. Yeah, oh shit. Oof. I'm sure every generation says this, but that music was awful.
then. I like Linkin Park.
We can talk about Linkin Park another time, because I've got thoughts on Linkin Park.
I like the hip hop
guys.
aspect of it. The hip hop.
I mean, even their hip hop is pretty milquetoast and watered down, but that's for another time. Thanks
Okay.
for listening, everybody. This has been an episode of the Review Universe, where we review everything in the universe. And the next time we'll review something else. So we'll see you then. Take her easy, because I'm Dave.
I'm Krista.
I'm Poop Jay.
And that's a wrap, because this is a new show and I don't need an outro.
For this, try to.
Fistful of Podcasts Radio.